If you want to go hiking in Zion National Park and are trying to figure out what the best trails in Zion National Park are, then you're in the right place. In this episode, we're going to look at my pick for the top 10 best hikes in Zion National Park. Hi, I'm James Ian, and I've written numerous guides and published several itineraries for Zion National Park. By sharing my picks for the best day hikes in Zion National Park, I'm going to help you choose the best trails for your own vacation. You'll know exactly what to expect so that you can easily create your own hiking list. You'll have peace of mind knowing that you won't accidentally miss an epic hike that you would have loved, and you also won't bite off more than you can chew. If you're watching this on YouTube, like and subscribe right now. If you're watching or listening somewhere else, follow my podcast to get the episodes as they come out. Zion has two of the most iconic hikes in the entire country, but there are many more amazing trails that may not be as famous, but that doesn't mean that they're not just as amazing. There are top hikes in Zion National Park for all levels, from easy strolls by the river to challenging hikes for the more adventurous. Be sure to stay to the end, where I'll be sharing what I think is the best hike in Zion National Park. Let's get started.
Welcome to National Parks Collecting with James Ian. He's a national park expert. He is here to help you have the best national parks trips ever. Get tips, discover hidden gems, and learn all you need to know. This is your path to collecting national parks experiences, memories, and maybe even a stamp or two.
So, what are the best hikes in Zion National Park? Remember to stay to the end when I'll be sharing the number one hike in the park. You won't want to miss it. One of the two most famous hikes in Zion National Park, and one of my favorites, is the Narrows. If you're planning to go hiking in Zion National Park and are up for a bit of an adventure, then this hike is for you. It's not only one of the most popular Zion National Park hikes, but it's also one of the most unique hikes in the entire country because you actually hike in a river through a narrow slot canyon. There are actually two ways to do the hike. The bottom-up hike is the in and out day hike that most people do, and this goes through the most spectacular parts of the canyon. But there's also a top-down hike that does require a permit, and you get dropped off at the far end of the slot canyon, and then you hike the entire length of the canyon, ending where most people start and end the bottom-up hike. Most people who do this camp overnight in the middle of the canyon and do it over the course of 2 days. So how long is the hike? The bottom-up hike is 10 miles round trip typically, although you can of course turn back sooner, but this will take you to the famous Wall Street section of the hike. If you do the top-down, the entire canyon length is 16 miles. It is rated as difficult or strenuous because you are wading in a river pretty much the entire time. The main bottom-up hike starts at the end of the Riverside Walk. The canyon is fairly wide at this point and the river is shallow to start, but as you progress past Mystery Falls, the canyon walls start to close in, and then you get to the most dramatic section, which is the Wall Street section, where the canyon is hundreds of feet high and just a few yards wide. Typically, to hike, you crisscross from side to side, looking for small sections where there is land on both sides, where it's a little easier to walk. There are occasional small beaches where you can rest and have a snack, so you're not in the water the entire time. And there is a side canyon, Orderville Canyon, along the way that's worth exploring. I have written a full guide to the hike on my parkscollecting.com website, and there's a link to that below if you want the full hike guide. Some tips. I recommend taking a stick with you to help stabilize you. The surface is a rocky riverbed and there's a current to the river, so that can create some instability. You can rent a stick at one of the outfitters in Springdale. I highly recommend it. The water can be very cold, so I recommend wearing waterproof pants and river or water shoes, especially in the spring and fall. In the summer, the water temperature is kind of refreshing, but spring and fall, it can be very chilly. In the winter, I recommend a wetsuit. And you can rent all of these from an outfitter in Springdale. It might be better to buy shoes if you plan to do other river hiking so that they're more fitted to your feet and comfortable, but I have rented shoes from an outfitter in Springdale and it was totally fine. Also be aware that the Narrows is closed when the river level is too high, when the water is flowing too fast, typically in April, May, or when there's danger of flash flooding. So always check the weather and the possibility of flash floods before you head out, either on the National Park website or at the Visitor Centre. I also recommend heading out early to avoid the crowds. I've hiked the Narrows where there were very few people around for almost the entire hike because I got there first thing in the morning. And then just as I headed back towards the end or the start, there was suddenly like hundreds of people around. I was really shocked. So get there early if you can. Number 2, an easy trail in Zion that most people can do is the Paras Trail. This is just 3.5 miles round trip, but you can easily do it one way and get a shuttle at the end. It's rated as easy. You can either pick it up at the Visitor Center at one end or the Canyon Junction shuttle stop at the other end. So you could do it both ways, but I like to just hike it one way and then get the shuttle at the end, or get the shuttle at the beginning and hike it back to the Visitor Center. It's underrated. It's paved, so it's very easy. At the Visitor Center, it passes the South Campground, and there's really great views of the Virgin River as it wanders through the canyon. There's great views along the way. There's really nice meadows that burst with flowers sometimes. You can see the red rock formations all around you, including the Watchman, which photographs really beautiful. There's also nature exhibits along the trail, so you can learn about the formation of Zion. And there's also a few spots where you have direct access to the Virgin River if you want to cool off your feet. It doesn't take very long to hike. It's only about 2 hours. And as I said, it ends near the Canyon Junction Bridge, where there's a really famous photo that you can take of the Watchman and the Virgin River in the foreground. And then you can either hike back or get the shuttle. The other thing is that it is pet friendly. It's the only trail in the park that's pet friendly. And it is a multi-use trail, so bikes are common. And if you don't want to hike, you could rent a bike, either a regular bicycle or an e-bike. But I recommend it if you're looking for an easy trail. What's next? Number 3. A challenging but amazing hike is the Subway, another New York connection after Wall Street in the Narrows. The hike is also called the Left Fork of the North Creek. This hike isn't actually in the main Zion Canyon part of the park. It starts at the Wildcat Trailhead, which is on the Kolob Reservoir Road, which is about 15.3 miles above the town of Virgin. It's 9.1 miles. It's rated as moderate. This is a one-way hike. You get dropped off and hike through. So you need to get a shuttle or you'll need to have a second car. There are several outfitters in Springdale that provide shuttle service. The other barrier to this hike, in addition to needing a shuttle or a two-car drop-off system, is that you need a permit to hike it, and it's limited to just a few visitors a day. You can apply for the advanced lottery up to 2 months early, and then a few spaces that are left can be reserved through the Canyoneering reservation system. There's a last-minute drawing a couple of days in advance for the few remaining spaces. And then in the very unlikely event that there's still some spaces available, you could try to get a permit the day before, but check the National Park website for more details on that. I will say that the hike itself is worth trying to overcome those difficulties because it is really amazing. So it starts out on a smooth and wide trail, not super exciting, but it soon turns into rocky slabs. Be careful not to lose the trail. And then after a few miles on mostly flat land, you scramble down some steep boulders that drop into the Slot Canyon. So then once you drop into the Left Fork Canyon via a rappel, so you're holding onto a rope, which is kind of cool, then it feels very similar to the Narrows in the main canyon of the Zion in that you're in this narrow Slot Canyon. You'll be bouldering and rappelling, although technical equipment isn't necessary, but you do need to be careful, and climbing. So it's definitely for people with really good mobility and a level of fitness. You can't lose the trail at this point. You just follow the stream down the narrow canyon for several miles, and you'll soon discover exactly why this has its name, as the Slot Canyon's walls are carved out in a curved kind of way that look like a subway tunnel. So it's very cool. At first, you may have the idea that you'll try to stay dry, navigating around the water, but eventually you are going to get wet. So in winter, you'll need a wetsuit because the water's very cold, but you will need to swim through some sections, so be aware of that too. Without a doubt, it's one of the most fun hikes, but it's definitely for more adventurous people. Okay, number 4. One of the two most famous hikes in Zion is the iconic Angel's Landing Trail. This is not only one of the best Zion hikes, but it's also one of the most popular. There are spectacular views from the end down the canyon, about 1,500 feet up in the air. The whole trail is 2.4 miles one way, so 4.8 miles return. It is strenuous and exposed. It leads from the Grotto trailhead, and it starts flat and easy. It's very nice. You're near the river, but it soon starts heading up a series of switchbacks. And if you stop and look back and around, the views are, even at this point of the hike, really cool. And then you get into Refrigerator Canyon. The canyon is aptly named because it's very cool. Even in the summer, it's a nice flat section after those early switchbacks. But then at the end of Refrigerator Canyon, you'll get to Walter's Wiggles. And this is another super famous part of the trail because there's 21 really short switchbacks but steep, so it kind of wiggles up the cliff. It's very fun. Take your time. And then that takes you to Scouts Lookout. And Scouts Lookout also has really great views. And this is where you need a permit for the final section. There's the last half a mile that's on a really narrow ridge with really steep drop-offs on both sides, really tall. There's a chain to hold on to. It is a little dangerous. It's very thrilling, exciting, not good if you're afraid of heights. But if you're not afraid of heights and you get a permit, you do need to get a permit for this section, then it takes you to the end where there's really amazing views down the canyon. Even if you don't get a permit, or even if you're afraid of heights and don't want to do that last bit, I really recommend the hike because just the hike to Scouts Lookout is really cool and really fun. It's definitely not for the faint of heart, though. Also be aware that it does get very hot in the summer, so take plenty of water. It also gets very icy and snowy in winter, so if you're hiking then, make sure you have appropriate footwear. As I mentioned, you do need a permit. This is through a lottery system. There's a link in the notes below to give you more information about how to get the permit and also with some tips for hiking. Okay, this next one is a bit of a tease, to be honest. A wonderful short trail in Zion is the Weeping Rock. Why is this a tease? Well, it's not currently open, but I'm including it here just in case it does reopen. It's a very easy, short 0.4 mile round trip hike from the Weeping Rock shuttle stop, and it takes you to this overhang where the water drips down like a curtain or weeps over it. It's very cool. So if you're looking to do a short hike and it's open, then this is one of the shortest hikes, and there's ferns and moss and water trickling down. It's very pretty. And you can sit under the overhang and look out at the Great White Throne through this curtain of dripping water. It's just very relaxing. It is uphill, so it's not suitable for wheelchairs, even though it's short. Before we look at more hikes in Zion National Park, if you're watching this on my @National Parks Collecting YouTube channel and you haven't already, please like and subscribe below. Next up, one of the easiest hikes in Zion National Park is Riverside Walk. This is 2.2 miles round trip, so 1.1 miles each way. It's easy, it's out and back, and it leads from the Temple of Sinawava. And it's one of the easiest hikes in Zion. It is wheelchair accessible, it's paved, it's flat, it runs alongside the Virgin River, past hanging gardens along the way. The end of it is also the starting point for the Narrows, but even if you're not planning to do the Narrows, it's worth hiking in and of itself. It's really pretty. It starts at the last shuttle stop, and then the canyon starts to narrow. So although it's not a super narrow slot canyon there, you are still surrounded by tall canyon walls on both sides. And then with the ferns and the moss and the trees all around you, it's just a very lovely, relaxing walk. So today we're looking at the best hikes in Zion. What's number 7? A wonderful short hike in Zion National Park is the Canyon Overlook Trail. This is just a short 1 mile round trip and it's rated as moderate, but the reward at the end is worth every step. It's really amazing. The trailhead is near the east entrance of the Mount Carmel Zion Tunnel. You'll find the trail on the east side of the tunnel just before the tunnel entrance, and then it's a short walk to the main trailhead. The Canyon Overlook Trail starts with just a short elevation gain of about 163 feet, and after that, steadily making your way up into the canyon and then to the final overlook. About halfway along, the trail goes through a little shaded alcove with a seep and some lush ferns growing out of the sandstone walls, which is a really nice, cool spot in the hot summer months. And then there's just an amazing view looking over the canyon. You can see Highway 9. You can look off to the left. You'll see holes in the cliff, which are viewing holes or air holes in the tunnel. Very cool. When you're ready, you just return back the way you came. If you're hiking with kids, there are some very exposed spots with some drop-offs that could be dangerous if you fall, so keep a very careful eye on your kids and make sure that they are very aware of trail safety. And the parking lot is small, so try to get there early. I like to get there for sunrise. It's really beautiful then anyway. And keep in mind that if you're coming from the east entrance, there's a parking lot just a little bit before the tunnel. That's where you should park. You can't do a U-turn and park in the parking lot right at the trailhead because that's on the other side of the road and it's blocked off to do a U-turn just before the tunnel entrance. Also very dangerous. If you're coming from the south entrance in the main canyon, just as you emerge from the tunnel, there's a small parking lot on the right. You can use that. That's the closest to the trailhead. If that's full, you can drive along a little bit further and then you can cross the road and turn left into the slightly larger parking lot that's a little bit further away from the trailhead. But both of those parking lots are often full completely, so keep that in mind. Next up is a bit of a cheat because it's not one but 4 trails actually, all connected. Some amazing trails in Zion National Park are the Emerald Pool Trails and the Kayenta Trail. It's 3.2 miles round trip to the furthest pool, and the trail difficulty varies depending. The first one is easy, the second and third pools are more difficult. The main trailhead for the Emerald Pools Trails is at the Zion Lodge. You can also get to the Emerald Pools along the Kayenta Trail, and this trailhead is at the Grotto Shuttle Stop. You can hike from one to the other and then get the shuttle. If you're doing the Emerald Pools Trails, you'll start at the Lodge, which is Shuttle Stop 5. You'll start by following a stream, which, due to the dry climate in the summer, can be dried up by the summer and the fall. But in the spring, when the water's flowing, it's particularly beautiful. Only about 0.6 miles into the trail, you'll reach the first pool, which is the Lower Emerald Pool. And then you'll make your way along a tall alcove where 2 waterfalls flow over the top. The second pool, which is the middle one, is just another 0.2 miles along, and here is where you see the pool that actually forms the waterfalls that you see from the lower Emerald Pools. And then the third pool, which is the Upper Emerald Pool, is actually more difficult to get to. It's a pretty steep up and back trail from there, but it's definitely worth it. It's right at the base of this really tall cliff. It's very cool, and it's a really nice place for a picnic if you've got one. And then when you return, you can either return along the same way or you can go back via the Kayenta Trail, which is also really nice, and that ends at the grotto. Okay, we're up to number 9. A great hike in Zion that is really easy to get to is the Watchman Trail. It's easy to get to because it's accessible from the visitor center parking lot, so you don't need to take a shuttle. It's rated as easy, although it does have some up and down. It's 3.1 miles round trip. It begins with a walk along the Virgin River, and then you cross a road, and then you start the hike up to the viewpoint. It's really pretty in summer when there's often wildflowers around. The path is well maintained. There is a 700-foot elevation gain, so it's not nothing, but if you take your time, it's not too bad. And then after a while, it gets up to a flat section where you kind of go along the side of a cliff, and it takes you up to an area where there's a small loop that I highly recommend doing, where you can get a view over Springdale and of all of the mountains around. It's another really nice place for the sunset and just to relax, and it gives you a different perspective from when you're deeper into the canyon. What's my number 1 hike in Zion? So far, we've seen 9 amazing hikes. There's just 1 more left. So stay to the end to hear my absolute favorite hike in Zion. But before we do, you may be thinking, this all sounds amazing, but how can I coordinate all of these hikes into an itinerary that makes the most sense for me and my family? The hikes have different difficulty levels. They're in different parts of the national park. They have different highlights. This was actually one of the main things that I took into account when I created my Zion National Park itineraries. In addition to all of those things, timing is key. Yeah, you need to coordinate to get a parking spot or with a shuttle schedule. You also want to be able to cater to everyone in your group, which can be tricky. So I created these super detailed itineraries for 1, 2, and 3 days. They include different options for doing alternate hikes or different activities in the same area for people who want to do less strenuous hikes or more challenging hikes or even non-hikers. You can find a link to the Zion itineraries page at the top of the description box below, but we can take a quick look right now. The itineraries also include a park overview, a detailed schedule for each day, and then all sorts of details with hiking and driving descriptions and maps, alternate activities in the same part of the park if you're traveling with people who do different things. There's tips, there's timings, there's places to see the best views, and more. With one of these itineraries, you'll know exactly what to do and when, and how to connect them all in a way that makes the most sense to be in the right place at the right time. Without these itineraries, people often find themselves struggling how to coordinate their time, to be in the right place at the right time, and to see and do all they want in the time that they have. These itineraries really help take away the overwhelm, and they give you all of the information that you need in one spot so that you don't need to worry about missing out on the highlight of the park or stress about how to put everything together that you want to do in a schedule that makes the most sense. Just follow the link in the notes below. Now, as promised, what's my number one hike in Zion National Park? I think the best hike in Zion National Park is Observation Point. Angel's Landing gets all the attention as the most famous Zion hike. But Observation Point is 700 feet higher and actually looks down on Angel's Landing, and it has these amazing views down Zion Canyon. In my opinion, it has the absolute best view in the park. There are actually 2 ways to hike to Observation Point, and you can combine them into one epic hike. There is a third, or there was a third, but it's currently closed, and there's no opening date. You used to be able, this is the closed one, you used to be able to hike 8 miles round trip up from the Weeping Rock trailhead at the bottom of Zion Canyon, with difficult, strenuous hike. Very stunning, but it would take you up directly and then you would hike back down again. I won't go into details about that right now because it's closed. There are 2 ways to get there though. Both of them are from the East Mesa, and one of them is the East Mesa Trail. This is 6.4 miles round trip, so 3.2 miles each way, out and back. It's rated as easy, but the hike itself, to be honest, is not super interesting for the main part, but the view at the end makes it all worthwhile. The trailhead is actually reached by a dirt road that you get to from around Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort, and it's kind of steep and it gets really muddy after snow or rain, and cars get bogged there all the time, so it's not ideal. I have seen in summer when the roads were very dry, regular vehicles parked in the parking lot there, but you do that at your own risk. There's a much easier way, in my opinion, which is to park at the Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort. And they have a shuttle for a small fee. It's totally worth it. And they'll drop you at the trailhead and then they'll pick you up whenever you're ready. The other option is the East Rim Trail, and you can hike the entire trail, or better, for a day hike, I think you can pick it up at the Stave Spring Trailhead, which again has a small parking lot. But you can also get a shuttle from the Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort that will drop you there, and then you hike on the East Rim Trail to Observation Point, and then you can either hike back, or, in my opinion, even better, then you can hike back along the East Mesa Trail and get picked up from a different Zion Ponderosa Ranch Resort shuttle, so it's a big loop and you're not hiking out and back. And this is my absolute favorite hike. It's so cool. The East Rim Trail from the Stave Spring Trailhead is 4.7 miles each way to Observation Point. If you're hiking all the way from the East Rim Trailhead, it's 10.6 miles each way, so it doesn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion, for a day hike. Either way, it's challenging, definitely for more experienced hikers. There is a section of the East Rim Trail where you need to follow stone cairns. So if you're a brand new hiker, probably not the best option. I would stick to East Mesa Trail if that's the case. If you want more help planning your trip, check the links in the description box below. There's a bunch of planning and booking resources that you can use to help plan and book your trip. And keep watching my videos to get even more help so that you can have the best national parks vacation ever. And if you want to get notified about the next episode, subscribe and click below.